So just I don't know if there's some people who haven't heard of when I'm doing it at all. So just the dream phone. I was inspired when I first started lucid dreaming by the stories of Stephen LaBerge and Keith Hearn when they first did those studies to signal that lucid dreaming was real, and the lucid dreamers sent the signals to say they're in the lucid dream. And so I always thought, like, can we extend that? Can we like have longer discussions and longer communications from a lucid dream? So I started working on this project probably in 2012, and the goal was just to like try to figure out how to send Morse code from a dream. And it's taken like a few different forms, but the first form that I actually tested was in 2018. After there were like several kits options at that point. When I started, I had to do everything, like put the components together by hand, and I was a newbie and didn't really know what I was doing, trying to like put everything on the breadboard, and I broke several things. And so then I found this kit, Backyard Brains. They do, they're like a little biosensing kit you can plug right on top of an Arduino. So I found them, and they made the whole thing a lot easier. And I didn't have any induction in this device. It was just communication. And I'll show some of it, because the form that it's in now was similar to what it was. Oh, I have to take this out though. There. Can you still hear me?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So, okay, so it's here. I'm going to demo. Yeah, so you just have these electrodes on your eyes, and one for ground, connect the whole thing, and blah, blah, blah. So the first one was just this part. It was just the communication, and so I would take it every night for like a month, and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna get lucid on my own and send a message from the dream. And I did it a few times. I sent hi, but it was like I would have so many issues. Like when you're first testing anything, whether it's software or hardware, or I'm sure like Karen in her study like ran into a lot of issues. Like the first times you're testing it, it's like you sometimes don't have any data. So for me, like I would accidentally toggle the Morse code interpretation off. There's an I signal to turn on and off. So I would accidentally toggle it off before sending the signal, and so stuff like that would happen. And so I thought, okay, I can't just get lucid randomly and use this device. I have to like add some induction, because it's not gonna. I either have to get better at lucid dreaming or add induction. So I put it aside, and then somebody connected me with Karen, and I participated in her study, and the setup that they had at Northwestern inspired me to get back to this, and I sort of copied a lot of what was in the lab. I really liked how the induction worked there. So I have this LED here that helps with induction. It's pretty much like just a copy of what Karen was doing. Like there was just an LED strip on the wall. So yeah, so now we have induction. So so there's 4 parts to the machine now. There's just like the first state is just wait for the dreamer to go to sleep. The second state is once REM is or the second state is detect REM. So the machine goes off first. The machine is just waiting for it to see eye movement. And then the third state is once the machine detects REM, it's gonna then induce lucidity. Yeah, so it's gonna start flashing lights. And then once the lucid dreamer sends a lucid signal, then we go into the state 4, which is interpret Morse code. And the way that it's set up now is it's set up just to here's the electric.
The Girl Scout cookie back.
Components. Okay, so it's just set up to save a message to this SD card, but it can be set up in all sorts of ways. And I have a video of me sending a text message, but that was while I was awake, and I haven't successfully sent any messages while asleep. But I have a combination of testing this while asleep, trying to send a message, not totally getting, the data, sending a message while I'm awake. So there's lots of parts, and it's just waiting for the time for it to all come together. And eventually I'd like to connect into the Twitter API and send a live tweet from Lucid Dream. So
yeah, I like that
that's
goal.
it.
And you're so those are EOG sensors next to your eyes there, right?
Yeah, these are EOG.
And then
And
like you have to be wired up to the Girl Scout cookie box there with actual like physical wires, right?
yeah, and it's not too bad. I find it a lot more comfortable than any of the masks I've used.
Yeah.
Even like when I had like this, how many electrode channels were on my head when Karen did the study, like that was more comfortable for me than the masks that I've worn. But yeah, just goes here, and then I'm limited, but it's not too bad. So yeah.
Nice. And that LED strip, that's you're using red LEDs for that, just above the bed, right? Kind of attached to this cardboard platform.
Yeah, and maybe I can zoom out to show a little better, like what the whole contraption looks like. Here, yeah. So yeah, the LED whole thing actually disconnected and fell on me while I was sleeping last night. But that was okay. So what?
I just said occupational hazards.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's all sorts of things that can happen. I was like, when I first did this, huh?
You got attacked by your lucid dreams.
Yeah. when I first did this, when I first set it up, I was gonna be connected to AC, so the AC meaning instead of direct current, alternating current, which is plugging right into the wall. But like that led to all sorts of problems. But like it could have led to like a big problem, because it's like kind of dangerous to sleep with like a device connected to your head.
You want to be super careful about that. I used to make exhibits at the Exploratorium, and I just doing a simple GSR exhibit, the hoops we had to jump through to make sure it was isolated. If there's a lightning strike, particularly in Chicago, you would want to, be careful.
Yeah. So so it's not as hazardous as it was for a little bit, but now just cardboard falling on me while I'm sleeping. Yeah.
It'd be a pretty fun way to induce a lucid dream. Like if you had something fall from the sky and then, that's weird, I must be lucid. Like a counterintuitive way to use that kind of stimulation.
So you detect the REM from the EOG signal that you're getting, and then that's then when you trigger, that's what triggers the lights?
Yeah, and it's a little limited, like, because you could just be awake and moving your eyes, and that's what happened the first night one of the first nights that I was testing this iteration. And like it would be a lot more accurate if I had an EMG on the chin, and I learned that just from Karen and from being in the lab, and they had an EMG on the chin, so it just like detects muscle tone. And if there's no muscle tone and your eyes are moving, then that's an indication that you're dreaming and not just awake moving your eyes. So right now, there's just like, it has to wait for a few hours, and then hopefully I'm not like awake 5 hours into the dream moving my eyes, So it's a little limited, but if I added that channel, that could be more accurate.
Did you write the sort of code or algorithm for figuring out if you're in REM?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's just looking for a certain amount of eye movements for
a big enough amplitude. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's not. So I mean, I haven't tested yet that actually works, but I'm hoping that that's whatever I guessed worked well.
Oh, cool.
What are some of the things you're troubleshooting right now? And then maybe some people on the call can help you troubleshoot it. Are there any, like, big barriers right now you're trying to work around?
Yeah, there's like the barrier I ran into is just like power, which it was an issue before. But before it was because AC was giving me electrical noise, but now it's battery powered to both be safer and not give electrical noise. But I'm using a 9-volt battery, and that's not enough because the whole for those of you know your like current and volts and stuff like that, it's just without the LEDs going off, the machine draws 100 milliamps. So, and that's only gonna a 9-volt battery will last 5 hours with that. So I need like some sort of rechargeable around between 7 to 12 volts is what I heard works with Arduino, battery that has like at least 1200, maybe at least 900 milliamp hours. So that's huh?
I just use USB power, 5.5 volts. It's a clean power source. It works great with my Dreamcatcher. And I'd like to say that what I have here is basically a head-mounted apparatus that you just described. And trust me, Dashiell and I have talked about the power supply and thus in the past. And I'm excited about collaborating with your code, with the iSensor code. And I don't want to hog the meeting, but if I could present real quick, I mean, it's amazingly easy.
Go for it.
Okay, here we are. Are we sharing? Here we are. Okay, can you see my screen? Okay. Now I simply plugged the Arduino in to the COM port, and this is the program that you get. It's all open source. Now the value of my code was this algorithm that does what Dashiell just described. It senses the eye motion triggers, but well, I haven't done the SMS piggyback thing. Arduino makes it pretty easy. And here, this is a real-time display of information that's coming right out of the Arduino to a COM port. It's giving me the thresholds of some of the systems. Now, I'm only using 26% of the Arduino processing power. So there's a lot of room for expansion. And Sheila and I are excited about collaborating on this effort, and we'd like to welcome any one of you that might consider collaborating with us. So there it is.
Yeah, and I think that's again like a big value of this group is connecting people that want to collaborate in this kind of projects. And again, we'll post this on YouTube, so anybody that's listening there that wants to reach out, I'm happy to help connect people that want to work together on this.
Yeah, when you were talking about how there's been all these failed Kickstarters, Carissa, who's here but did not get to introduce herself because something was wrong with her mic. We were talking a few days ago, or maybe a week ago, but about how like a lot of those Kickstarters, it's not like there are people in the Lucid Dream community who are, I don't know, just like they're not super active in the Lucid Dream community. They tend to just be like random people that sort of disappear. And if there was a group that came up with a technology to induce lucid dreaming that had more of like a stake in the community, that might be more trusted, and it might be if it was also just like collaboration between people, it might be just better. People who really want something to work.
Yeah, I think they've done a lot of damage, especially the first one that really kind of started all of it, or the renaissance of lucid dreaming technology, which was the REMI. And those guys moved on to just build a little light stick, and they stopped responding to emails for support if you needed a copy of the instructions. And it's still being sold, and yet you can't reach out. Like I've reached on every channel, and not only was it a step back because it didn't have eye movement detection, even though it was, you know, more comfortable and slightly more programmable, they didn't seem to actually care that much about lucid dreaming or the technology, and kind of like took the money and disappeared, and that's about it. So I'm hoping with more collaborations, like you say, within the community, to find better tools, better tech, and to rebuild the trust in these endeavors, because they're important.
Yeah, totally agree. And like that kind of echoes Dash's point there too, where it's like they kind of came outside of the community, and like with that, you don't really have as much empathy for what kind of problems are you trying to solve for people that want to become lucid in a dream. And I think it's critical to like, you got to really understand kind of the ins and outs and like what they want to get done by using these devices. And I think it can even go beyond, you know, lucid dream induction too. Like maybe it's also around like help improve sleep overall too. Like maybe that's a way to get more people to try it, where if you also have a stimulation modality that can improve deep sleep at the same time, and track your, you know, your sleep in a reliable way, there could be these extra kind of additional features that, you know, make it more enticing to use, but then also help kind of augment the lucid dreaming capability of it. So yeah, lot of room for improvement there. And I think it's only going to get better with like more people embedded in the lucid dreaming community coming up with solutions to do that.
Yeah, I have my project open source. I think, Joseph, did you say that yours is open source too?
Ooh, now let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
Well, let's take that offline. Thank you.
Okay, I thought you mentioned that it was or something. Okay, that's fine.
Well, no,
I
as I discussed, the code really isn't much use without the apparatus. So I'm looking into a way to allow an editable version to be released with each device. But as far as spreading it wide, I don't know. We can talk about that, perhaps.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm leaning in that direction. So
Yeah, so mine is all online. It's like, I mean, everything's, you know, still in a sort of unfinished state. I'm like, you know,
okay.
but I'm keeping mine open source right now because, you know, if someone wants to come and iterate on what I'm doing,
I understand.
that's more, yeah, like
Okay. All right
yeah.
then. That's all the convincing I need. I'll add.
Oh,
We'll combine our code, and boom, we'll launch it out there, and we'll rake in the karma points. You know. And I've got some interesting ideas about the mask. I'm considering a flexible silicone mask into which we can put the side sensors, the skin sensors. Now, I saw you sent me the specs on that kit. I need to talk to you about the signal conditioning into the Arduino, but yeah, I'm really excited to delve into this with you. So
yeah, I'm not trying to make you make your thing open source if you don't want. I was just saying what was why I
Look,
decided to
you
make
know,
mine.
I had a Kickstarter. I was willing to do 100 of them for $100. I'm glad it didn't kick off because each one takes me like 4 hours to make, and I have a regular job, you know. So I'm looking into ways to offer, you know, the equipment and the apparatus at a very cheap scale. Shoot, those Arduinos are like $5 or $10 each, right? And so that's my whole object, to keep the cost low. And we'll I'm real, like I said, I'm really excited to delve into it. I have already a secret Facebook group set up that if any one of you from this meeting sends me an invite, I'll introduce you. Kristen Lamarco's in there. Everybody who I gave a kit at the Hawaii retreat is in that group. Now, every one of them promised to build the Dreamcatcher. So far, one lawyer, Dimitri Tobin in Australia, was the only one that actually got some lights blinking. But we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna. Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about the Dream Phone project and, you know, like kind of next steps that you have?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to talk about just that. So the idea with doing the Dream Phone was just really to get people more interested in lucid dreaming, and you know, if I can send a tweet from a dream, like that's interesting. Some people will talk about it. People will be like, oh, how can I do that? Or they'll just like, it's something to bring into the world physically to bring more attention to lucid dreaming. And my goal is just to get people more interested in it. And so this is one of the reasons I have it open source is just because I want people to like do all sorts of strange things with it. And I don't if you guys know David Green, he's like a lucid dream. He makes drawings from lucid dreams. And so like I've always thought like, oh, what would an artist do with it? So we've been talking about doing some weird art stuff with it. You know, like, can he get like a robot to like move while he's in the dream as some sort of art installation, like communicating to robotics and all sorts of stuff. And I just think that's really cool and expanding on what you can do if you bridge that gap between the dream world and the waking world. And yeah, so that's why I decided to make it open source. I also don't like, I don't know, I mean, it sounds cool to like produce something and sell it, but like, I don't know what, like that's not my interest right now because I'm not sure what the market is like for something like that with lucid dreaming. And it also seems like one of those things that's like, there's like a lot of liability in this and that. So I just want to do it for the, like, for now, I just want to do it like to get more of the word out about lucid dreaming.
And I think the way that you're doing is pretty smart too. Like I can imagine a lot of outlets picking up woman tweets from a lucid dream and like how much awareness that's going to build. And then when people are more aware of it, it's going to draw more people into the space. And that's only going to help build more momentum and people with the right skills to like build that, you know, those products that will actually, you know, have some commercial success because they're good products. So I think like, you know, you're kind of helping us with that first phase of like raising awareness in a kind of a clever way.
Now it's trying to steer clear of the woo-woo stuff. Dash, it's an incredible tool to get input from people in that altered state of consciousness. Even if our device is just available for research purposes, to have a reliable test device like that is available would just go miles and miles. So yes, we'll talk about that. Yeah, I would really appreciate input from anybody who cares to voice a concern.
Yeah, sounds good. And so Dash, do you have any estimated timelines on when you think you'll be able to do it, or is it just kind of like wait and see as you kind of like work through issues as they arise?
Yeah, if I give you an estimate, it's like it's always going to be optimistically like way too soon because I started this in 2012. And I can't tell you how many times I was like, I'm about to do it. And like, it was so wrong. So, which is just like how everything goes. So, at least for me, you know, but it's going to happen. It is going to happen. So, yeah, I think it's going to happen soon, but I don't know, you know, like I'm probably going to run into a lot more problems than I expect, as always happens.
Yeah, no, I bet you'll get it. Things you're describing are, you know, it's not science fiction. It's all like pretty feasible. Not to mean that it's easy, but it's all stuff that it's possible. Like it just got, like everything's got to like line up and just got to work through those issues. So I'm excited to see that, you know, come to fruition. Any other questions for Dash on this project, or any other thoughts?
Dash, just to give you a term on using electrodes, if you look up something called optical isolation, that's the key. You know, if you have something plugged in, just Google optical isolation with medical devices, and if you're working off of batteries though, like you're doing it, you're safe.
Yeah. I don't know at what point, like, because when I started this, everyone was like, yeah, you can't do it off of AC. But then at some point,
but you really are exposing yourself to, as small as it might be, there's a definite risk there, you know?
Yeah, so it's better. So it was interfering with the signals too much. Like if you looked at even when just something nearby plugged into AC, the electrodes will pick that up. So I had to like move all this like electrical stuff, this lamp that's on right now, I have to unplug it at night. I had to move power strip to the other side because the signal goes from like a nice line that's got an up and down to this fat, like snaky thing.
something else you could do. I mean, this might get a little bit pricey, but we've been having all of these crazy power outages up in the Bay Area because of fires, and I actually just sent. They make these batteries that have quite a bit of oomph to them. That are probably you wouldn't have any of that problem. That is you can plug like 110 volts into. They sell them at Best Buy, things like that. That I'm sure would run this thing for a night easily without it ever having to be plugged into the wall.
Oh, like a little, okay, like a car battery type thing almost?
Yeah. While you guys go, I'll see if I can find the name of it. I'll tell you.
Yeah. But, Joe, you're saying that you used
Yes, there are
USB?
there are USB lights available. I've got one that I use when I work on my computer. You can plug it right in, 5.5 volts. It provides pretty much amperage to run like an LED, but perhaps Bill's suggestion would work best for you. I have a question for you now. So do you find that your headboard or roof mounted LEDs, is there an advantage to that over the lights in a mask?
Well, so I've had masks that induced lucid dreams with light. And then I've had this type of setup induce lucid dreams when I was with in Karen's lab, and the biggest difference for me was just like comfort, and
so you have seen the lights come through and they're morphed into, you say, a police car sometimes. Okay,
yeah,
well that's all right. So that's really exciting. And now one more thing, I saw an item on the market that was actually a wristband that they claimed to detect dreams with a pulse rate or maybe some skin reaction, friction resistance, and then it shocked you. Now, what kind of science is there on that, Karen?
Okay, I was actually going to say that, like, I saw that Kickstarter. I think it was like a vibration thing, and I thought it was really interesting because if you look at the like research on dream incorporation, tactile stuff is good at getting incorporated into dreams, like way better than like auditory stuff. There's not a lot of research on it, but I do think that there's something interesting about like tactile stuff and lucid dreaming, and I think that is a cool direction. And also the other thing I want to say is that like you're talking about the EMG, but like when you're in REM sleep, that's the only time that you have a paralyzed EMG. Like that never happens at any other time. So I feel like there should be something that is able to detect that, or like if you just need another way of detecting REM, like maybe you don't want stuff on your face. I feel like it'd be interesting to look at like when are you paralyzed and twitching, because like that is very unusual in comparison to like every other state of.
Well, I mean, but you're onto something, right? I mean, it's my most effective practice is 4 a.m. boom, galantamine, and just think about it. And I'm usually in REM state, so I know I'm pretty much guaranteed to be dreaming at that point. So maybe we shouldn't really emphasize sensing it so much, but definitely the side mount sensors with to do the Morse code. Oh, and on that, Dash and I have been talking. I learned Morse code as a ham radio operator 50 years ago, okay? We worked out little short methods of code that incorporates messages where you don't have to do the whole thing. CQ, CQ, CQ is how you ring out and say, I'm here, somebody answer, I'm going to talk to somebody. So they're, and it's amazing that the Germans learned it letter by letter. I mean, only the Germans would go to such expertise and precision, trust me. So we'll talk about that, Dash, and it's all capable with the Arduino that we're using right now. So I'm really excited about it.
At least like my 2 cents on like sensing versus stimulation, it does feel like stimulation is kind of the missing piece of the puzzle here. Not that like sensing is trivial, but like even on some of these wrist-worn wearables or like ring wearables like the Oura Ring, we're not perfect by any means, but it's approaching like pretty good, or at least like probably good enough for this application, as long as you like you get in the ballpark and like you're willing to tolerate some kind of like hits and misses, and if the stimulation doesn't like immediately wake somebody up. So I feel like there's probably these trade-offs between like having a user-friendly consumer device and you know, wanting to minimize the amount of like electrodes attached to your face. It's like maybe we can do good enough from the finger, especially when you kind of layer in temperature data and maybe like EDA data and heart rate variability, and like the overlaying all of those like kind of signals that are you can't measure the brain from the finger, but you can measure a lot of the proxies from there too. So then I think it probably becomes more of like a trying to solve for the right stimulation, but open to other thoughts on that if like people think that's off base. But those are just like a few top of mind thoughts on that.
Well, I tend to be very empirical about these things. It's sort of like at the end of the day, if it's really working for people, hey, you know, I mean, that I think is the you know, you just, my experience is you got to test things with people. You know, there's no, you got to test it with people.
Yeah, and I bet there's probably a whole personalization aspect of it where, you know, like REM might look a little bit different between people, or like, you know, different types of stimulation work better for different types of people. I don't know, right. Karen, if you saw that in your research.
Yeah, I think that is one thing that like I don't have a lot of knowledge about this, but I think that's one thing that can be hard for Kickstarters or for people, like, for instance, with the swipe, like if you have something that detects REM for you, it is like, that's one reason why sleep scoring algorithms like aren't automated yet and people still sit there and do the 30-second epochs, is because like there's just these weird individual differences, and like also with how the electrodes are attached. So like you can't just program something to say like, you know, chin EMG goes down 50% and scalp EMG does this. It's like not that clear. And so even if you get a device to work for you, it's like a whole other animal to try to make it work for other people, I think, which is, I think, an obstacle in the development of this stuff.
Yeah. And maybe that would necessitate in like a software solution to have some kind of like baseline period where you can kind of like train to that person over time.
Right. So the Zeo, no, and it's not my Zeo. It's, what's this thing called? It's got
the ZMax.
The ZMax. The ZMax detects REM pretty well, to my knowledge, and they use like a phenotype model or something. So like you wear it for the beginning of the night or something, or one night, and then it looks at your sleep and all that stuff, and then it like creates a sleep phenotype that it applies to the next night or something. I forget exactly how it works, and that, like, I feel like that it is pretty good at cueing you in REM sleep. The only thing is that it sometimes falls off, and I also think that they are a little bit behind in terms of they can't produce as many as people want, and they're not answering all their emails and stuff. So the like company aspect has some stuff to be desired, but I think that the product is working like kind of well.
What are they actually monitoring?
Brainwaves. They're using.
Is that right?
Yeah. They do it, and I think it's just a few electrodes on your forehead, and you can kind of see eye movements, but they use sleep scoring differently. So you can look at the wave, and it can kind of look like the brain waves that you see in EEG.
Right. Well, you talked about that earlier with LeBerg's theory as far as what actual brain waves. We had that discussion at the table during in Hawaii, if I believe, with you. Yes. So that's very interesting. Now, if that could be an avenue for actually altering that signal and being able to detect that signal, that might be an avenue out as well. But I don't know. Just a thought.
They're not stimulating brain waves. They're just looking at them same way as like any electrodes are looking at them. But then because of the phenotyping thing, I think that they're
I get it.
And then I think
it's 2 channels of EEG, and then they're sort of like doing a lot of signal processing, so they can, you know, they can get, I guess, some EOG out of that or filter other things out. So they're doing a lot of stuff with like a little bit of, but pretty good, you know.
Right.
And critically, something that they're doing is they're not just looking at the EEG line; they're looking at the spectrogram of it. So like they're looking at the different frequencies.
I understand entirely. And, you know, I've been waiting for that to hit the market. It sounds like that's the most reliable way. But again, like if I follow my practice or one of these newfangled Brian O'Hearn wild techniques, right? And that's become real popular too. I'm pretty much guaranteed to already be in REM state. I'm not so concerned about detecting it anymore. I mean, you can put yourself in REM to be fairly certain that you're in REM state by following a few simple practices and procedures. but it's also very interesting. Now, anything that offers an additional avenue for getting information in or out, now that's definitely worth exploring. I'm just going to shut up. Thank you.
Good contributions, though, for sure. And I know we're kind of running up against time, but I'm willing to stay for longer than beyond the hour. But I do want to at least go through my last couple of slides, which will take less than 3 minutes, I estimate, and then it's kind of like into open topics, which we've kind of been doing anyways. But I will share my screen again real quick just to kind of close out of the deck I have here.
And Dash, I put the link for that power supply I was talking about in the chat.
Thanks. Yeah, I opened it. Thank you.